Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Gudatia Mokhati, BW Legal Nest Admin. Today I'm joined by Honorable Justice Sanji Monageng, a phenomenal woman, a woman who wears many hats. She has been a judge of the High Court of Botswana, a judge of the High Court of the Gambia, a judge of the High Court of Swaziland, and of course, the first vice president of the International Criminal Court. She has presided over a number of criminal, civil, and constitutional matters. She also has broad experience in the promotion and protection of people and human rights. She has received several honors, including the Presidential Order of Honor in 2013, Human Rights Award from the International Association of Women Judges. Honorable Justice Monageng, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear.
How are you?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm very happy to be talking to you this afternoon.
Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us this afternoon. Without further ado, who is Honorable Justice Sanji Monageng?
Honorable Sanji Monageng, as you want to insist calling me,
yes,
is an ordinary girl from a village called Sorowe in the Central District Council. That's where I was born.
Okay.
I was born to a mother who was a teacher and a nurse. As a result of that, I basically grew up in most of the Central District Council villages, following her many transfers. These include, and are not limited to Bubonong, to Tobane, Maunatala, Sefope, and we ultimately, as a family, settled in Mahalape. And for today, and for all intents and purposes, I am from Mahalape.
Awesome.
I schooled in some of these villages, but my secondary schooling was at one of the best secondary schools then, and this is Moyeng College. We just recently celebrated 70 years of that college, and you should have seen people you don't know. The top brains of this country came from there, just to name a few.
Wow.
And of course, I am an alumni of the University of Botswana. I graduated there with a Bachelor of Laws degree. And throughout my career or my life, I have undertaken all sorts of short courses. And this will become more relevant as we go on with our interview. But they include international criminal law, mediation, international commercial arbitration.
Thank you for that one. But how would your friends and acquaintances describe you?
Kuda, you can never be 100% sure, but but considering that my friends and I have had a relationship for a lifetime without any problems, I believe that they think I'm a good, nice, helpful, down-to-earth and reliable person. For instance, I was away from home for 12 years And we kept
Yes.
in touch to date.
Yeah.
It's as if we never parted. So I want to believe that they hold a good opinion of me like I do of them.
Awesome. Thank you. I would agree with that because I know a few people who are really very fond of you, including Onkatile Moeti in the
Yeah.
UK.
In Scotland, I like her a lot. She's awesome.
I know she calls you a friend.
Yeah. She's my little friend.
Yes. But can you take us through your career journey?
My career journey is a mixed bag. It's a mixed
Yes.
masala, if you like. After I finished my secondary school, I joined Barclays Bank of Botswana, now ABSA.
Okay.
And after working for them for a few years, I joined the Ministry of Finance of Botswana, specifically the Botswana Savings Bank. And after, I think, a year, I was admitted to the University of Botswana, where I went to study law. And after completing my law degree, I joined the judiciary of Botswana as a magistrate. There was nothing wrong. It was a very secure job, very enjoyable. But after 10 years, I allowed myself to sacrifice, leave a very secure job, and set up the Office of the Law Society of Botswana in Gaborone, which I administered for 8 years. And I must say, this was the beginning of a career direction that has also surprised me. The exposure was phenomenal. I networked nationally and internationally. The government of Botswana also took the establishment of the Law Society very seriously. They involved us in a lot of initiatives in the country. And of course, as the first officer of the society, I represented the society basically in everything. And as we went along, I mean, this was to do with everything, HIV/AIDS. I represented the society in the high-level consultative council meetings. And because the Law Society is one of the objectives is to assist government in matters of law. The then government took that literally and very seriously. We were consulted, and in fact, the lawyers then, I don't know now, were so serious. They made sure that when there was a bill to be passed, they would look at it quickly. If they felt that they should have an input, they will do that. And I think these are some of the things that endeared us to the government and that indicated that the Law Society was serious. But now coming back to me, at one stage in, I think, 2 or 3, there were vacancies at the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. And by that time, one of the subcommittees of the Law Society was the Human Rights Committee, and we were big on it. And I was then nominated for one of the 3 vacancies, and happily I was elected one of the commissioners. This was part-time, and I did it for 6 years, which during those days made me one of the specialists, if you like, on the African human rights system, which was really, really awesome for us and for the continent. The commission is based in Banjul. That's where the office is, Banjul, the Gambia. And I ended up being elected chairperson of the commission. And of course, the commission then had all sorts of mechanisms where the rights of women, rights of older persons, and we are involved in rights of refugees and displaced persons, and so forth and so on. So this is why I am saying that when you are a commissioner, you become some expert on the African human rights system. And ultimately, during my last 2 years, I became the chairperson of the commission. Now, during that time, I also looked at other areas. I took short courses to empower myself, and I applied for and was offered the position of judge of the High Court by the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. And this is when I was placed in the Republic of the Gambia. I must say that was one of the most difficult things I have done in my life. The judges had to do what the president wanted them to do. But fortunately for us, Commonwealth Fellows, because we were not being paid by the Gambia, all they had to do was give us a car, give us some portion of fuel, and give us security. They couldn't influence our decisions. But it was very, very difficult. I mean, I can say this because you know, and the whole world knows what the Gambia was under the former president Yahya Jammeh. But this strengthened me so very much, and unknown to me, it prepared me for other things to come, specifically for the International Criminal Court, which we will talk about in a minute. And then after I finished my contract in the Gambia, I was redeployed to Eswatini. And of course, Eswatini is a Southern African country. I'm a Motswana, you know, we are brothers and sisters. It was a very good experience, especially that we as High Court judges were authorized to also try cases that touched on tradition. So it was amazing. And of course, we were implementing a new constitution. So being a judge in Eswatini then became very, very important. And I must say that again, the Eswatini government just let us do our work. I think they were also interested in strengthening their system and making sure that the new constitution was implemented professionally. Now, in the meantime, I developed an interest in a relatively new area of the law, international criminal law. So what I did out of interest, by then I never thought that I could end up even applying to the International Criminal Court. I enrolled in a few short courses. Actually, one of them was in The Hague. I went to The Hague, and I was paying for myself, very, very, very expensive. And this is a lesson to the young girls out there, the young women lawyers out there, and any other young person really. You've got to sacrifice. You've got to prioritize. And then in 2004, I went to a seminar in Austria. And at that seminar, on behalf of the African Commission, this was a seminar for international judges. And needless to say, the African human rights system was not known, and we made such an impact. And one of the judges, a South African, at one stage called me aside and said, do you ever think of becoming a judge at the International Criminal Court? I said, oh no, I can't. She says, you know what, you are material for that court, I can tell you. Anyway, one thing led to the other, and ultimately there were vacancies in 2008. And now I had prepared myself. I asked for a nomination for the judgeship at the ICC. And of course, you don't approach government empty-handed. I demonstrated to the Botswana government that I probably could be elected a judge. The qualifications are, first, you have to have knowledge, Group A, knowledge of criminal law. Group B, this is knowledge of human rights law, humanitarian law, and so forth. Now, I qualified for both lists, but the Botswana government agreed to nominate me under list B, that of human rights and humanitarian law. And of course, there are some other added qualifications like knowledge of children's rights, women's rights, things like torture and stuff like that. And these are things that I'm telling you now that by that time I was an expert in, through my personal engagements and through the African Commission. So we were very, very fortunate. They were looking for 6 judges, and there were 18 applicants from all over the world. The world meaning, by that time, there were 108 states parties to the Rome Statute. And basically, a lot of countries that were not represented had, that didn't have judges, had put forward applicants. It was one of the most difficult things, again, that I've done. You need your government to believe in you, first and foremost, for them to nominate you. The nomination is not the end of the story. There is campaign, and you cannot campaign without your government, because some of the issues that have been raised, as an ordinary person, you don't know. So as I was funded, we campaigned at the International Criminal Court summit, if you like, in The Hague, and then we went to New York twice. And of course, your ambassador is there, introduces you to a country, a representative, and you have to convince this diplomat that you know what you are talking about. But it was great. Again, I had been endorsed by the African Union.
Yeah.
As the AU candidate, Botswana AU candidate. And the African human rights system was not known those days, I guess, and everybody wanted to know what it is about. I remember a candidate from one of the Latin American countries came and said, I am not interested in anything else, just tell me about the African Commission. And when we parted, that lady said, I am so empowered. But I should tell you, it is not easy. It is so very difficult. But lo and behold, I think first day, the states had to elect mandatory candidates, like the Khurulak candidate. The following day, before I knew it, I was in. And my other friends were struggling, I think, for a week. I had already gone back to Eswatini. But I'm saying this, I'm giving you these little details in an effort to demonstrate to the young women and even the young men out there that you will not have anything in a silver platter. If you have an ambition, you can't sail through, you have to make sure that you achieve it. And of course, at the International Criminal Court, I worked in the pretrial division for 3 years, and then I was placed in the appellate division for 6 years. And for 3 years, I served as the first vice president of the court. So this is where I am.
Very interesting, Jenny.
Thank you.
Wow. But have you always wanted to be a lawyer, though?
I guess like everybody else, even if you don't want to be a lawyer, when you go to university now, you look at the low hanging fruit.
Yes.
I remember that I was admitted for a BCom because my boss then said, no, you can't do law when you are with the Minister of Finance. I mean, for a month, I couldn't even add half and quarter and 1/8. So I had applied for law. But those days, Botswana was Botswana, and your boss would say, no. If you offer her law, then we are not going. She's not going to be supported with a bursary.
Yes.
But I had applied for law because I knew that I was not a numerical person, a number person. And I loved the reading. So my lowest hanging fruit was law.
Awesome. Okay. It has taken you so far. Okay. Moving on to the next question. You were very instrumental, as you said, in the establishment of Botswana Law Society, and you actually became its first CEO. What were the objectives at the time, and do you think that purpose is still being served today?
Up to 1997, the legal profession was regulated by the Legal Practitioners Committee, which was headed by the Attorney General. And of course, this was an added burden on the AG's office. This regulation had nothing to do with him. They had bigger things to do and to look at. So basically, you could say, and with the greatest of respect, because they did quite a lot, there was basically no real regulation as we know it, or as we ultimately knew it, when we set up the office. And the then AG, Raskelamani, pushed so hard for the legal practitioners to be made into law. I remember when he called the lawyers one time, he said to us, I'm calling you for a meeting between 8 and 1. And by 1 o'clock, he had the bill. He gave the lawyers an opportunity to comment. He said 1 o'clock, whether you have finished or not, that is it. The bill is going to Parliament, and that is it.
Yeah.
So we came. I mean, it was like a joke. People thought Raskelamani, I think we all thought Raskelamani was joking. And yet he had been talking about this for so long. 1 o'clock, he said, thank you very much. This is the end of our meeting. Let's go for lunch. And that was it. But happily, the lawyers then realized that an office had to be set up.
Yes.
And ultimately, it was set up. And there was a little bit of headhunting, but we applied. And ultimately, I left a very secure job and agreed to set up this office. Now, fortunately, that time, as you know, we had lawyers from outside the country, or who were trained outside the country, who worked outside the country, and who knew what a law society was, the Zimbabweans, the South Africans, and stuff like that. So they gave me a lot of support, and even the council, I was given a lot of support. I was really given a free reign. They just said, set the society up, but ensure that you consult us. I was attached to the Law Society of Zimbabwe and to the Law Society of England and Wales. And these are some of the leading societies then. And we had the benefit of learning a lot from those societies and others. We pushed simultaneously as regulating and doing things that the government was asking us to do. We also joined international organizations like the International Bar Association. And I can tell you that the Law Society just grew and grew and grew. And ultimately, you might know that when we decided to establish the SADC Lawyers Association, it was based in my office in Gaborone. And I was basically helping the CEO to set it up because of the expertise that I had acquired. And for me, I gave up this secure job, the magistracy, for the love of the profession, for the love of law, and to give Botswana a voice when they dealt with their legal representatives. It was not easy, I must say. It was not even easy for the lawyers, because these are people who went to bed today. There's no regulation. They wake up in the morning, there's an office, there's a woman calling them, asking for the audited books, going into their offices and so forth. So, but what is important is that before we knew it, members of the public knew about us. I think we deliberately advertised our services, and ultimately I just was working on complaints. And I'm not even saying that all of them were legitimate, but it was just awesome. To the extent that when I left the Law Society, it was synonymous with me. Somebody would hear somebody say, yeah, downstairs, from downstairs, I want Mama Monageng's office. Mama Monageng. Who's Mama Monageng? What does she do? And but we, even for the lawyers themselves, we introduced, I must say, we introduced a lot of professionalism. Lawyers knew that they had to audit their books. They knew that they had to respond to complaints from their clients timelessly. They knew that there was a disciplinary committee. They started taking interest in our subcommittees of human rights, legal education. It was just excellent, and I'm hoping that that is still the case. I really haven't been in touch properly, which I should do this year, with the Law Society. But from what the little I read, I think they're still on track.
Yes. Thank you so much for that one. We've alluded to the different prominent positions that you've held. What advice would you give to the young women, young men, lawyers out there? Like, which areas can we focus on if we were to make it internationally, to have to serve in international roles?
What I can say is that, like I said earlier, nothing comes to you on a silver platter. That's only a dream. I want younger people to dream,
Yes.
to make sure that they attain their dreams. Reach for the sky. That sky is not as far as you think. And remember that you do that by self-empowerment. Identify opportunities.
Yes.
If you fall in love with this opportunity, see whether you are qualified for it. And if you are not, prepare and prepare for it. Now, at international level, opportunities are there. And I always say that for a qualified lawyer can do anything. All you have to do is to apply your mind and to identify what area you are interested in. But again, I want to caution that at international level, the competition is very high. So those who aspire for such roles must be very, very prepared. For the lawyer, for instance, at the ICC, there are internships, there are professional attachments. These are extremely good programs that might help you even get a job within the ICC or in other tribunals. And even if you don't get a job in the international tribunals, you come home having served as an intern at the ICC or a visiting professional. You are locally, you are a step ahead of your peers. But again, these internships and visiting professionals programs are not for free. They used to be for free, but now the court ran out of money. But again, if you want to do it, you can do it. If you are working, you save. For instance, before I left, the interns needed about €1,000 a month, and you do it for 6 months. You might find a sponsor who can sponsor you. But really, legal opportunities are still there. It's not only the ICC, there is the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. They are all UN agencies. All you need to do is to decide what catches your interest and work on it. But without working on it, I'm telling you, you can't make it. And maybe I'm oversimplifying it. It is not easy. I know, I went through it, but the only thing I keep begging Botswana children is to empower yourselves. Learn and learn and learn. For instance, just before I came, I knew I was retiring, and I was saying to myself, my goodness, what am I going to eat? What I did was train as an international commercial arbitrator. So right now, I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in London. Again, it was one of the most difficult things I have done in my life. You go in, you think you are a judge, you have never ever heard of, you have heard of arbitration, you think it's something that you can do. You go into that classroom, first of all, the lecturer says, oh, I see there are 3 judges in this group. I want to address you here and now. Leave your baggage outside this classroom. All the judges that we have had in this program fail. But he was being honest, brutally honest, just to warn us that don't think because you are a lawyer, you are a judge, you will be a good arbitrator or you are going to find it easy. And he was right. But we just had, at our age, old women, we just had to spend sleepless nights and paid a lot of money, over 100,000 pula, and flying to there and the hotel and what have you. But we ultimately did it. As a matter of fact, I had a brilliant young girl from Botswana, Mary Jean Leah.
Yes.
I deliberately took Mary Jean under my wing at appeals level. The child was completely out of this world. And when she left the ICC, she applied to all the Ivy League universities, and she was taken by all of them. And I gave her very honest references, serious references where the universities were, 3 people would phone me about her. She ended up at Harvard.
Wow.
Master's degree. And this is somebody who came in from a university in South Africa, and I sat her down and I attached her to a legal officer and said, please make sure that this child leaves this place knowing what she came to do.
Wow.
Yeah. And please, I just want young people not to be fearful. You try. If you fail, you try again. And that's just how it is. Just yesterday, I was interviewing a child, a Botswana child, who studied finance and is now in an entity where he had to double up and literally thrown into a legal atmosphere. And today, even the language he uses is like he's a lawyer. And I'm telling you, and I just was amazed. But this is how Botswana should be. Young people should be. But Botswana is not going to go away. You are going to find Botswana here. But go out there and for you guys, it's so easy now because you can do things online as long as you are pursuing your studies through proper institutions.
Yes. Okay. But on alternative dispute resolution, do you think as Botswana we are really taking that as an option?
I think the ordinary person on the street doesn't quite know about ADR.
Yes.
And I think the Botswana Institute of Arbitrators, this is something they should take up on. They should start educating the society. When you talk to people about arbitration, they don't know what you are talking about. People still want to go to their lawyers.
Yes.
When you try to say, look, it's faster, somebody will say, oh, somebody told me that it's faster, but it's less expensive as as lawyer, as litigation. And I'm saying, of course, it could be as expensive as litigation, but it's faster because lawyers also have a livelihood. But you are right. Mediation and arbitration are really areas that have to be pushed in this country. Because again, people have no money. People have no money. They have to pay for their services quick, get the results, carry on with their lives.
Okay. You were recently appointed the SADC administrative to a judge of the SADC Administrative Tribunal. What does that job entail?
This tribunal deals with SADC staff labor issues.
Okay.
Yeah, it is akin to, say, the United Nations Dispute Tribunals. It is akin to the industrial court, our industrial court. But what is important is that cases that ultimately reach the tribunal, the complainant should have exhausted internal SADC existing mechanisms. You go through this general manner, the director, that ultimately the executive secretary, and ultimately that's when you reach the tribunal. And as a matter of fact, I was elected vice president of the tribunal last week.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think there's something that we need to talk about, the difference between international and national
Yes.
planes. Yeah. When you asked, when I saw this question, I said to myself, you are so right. At international level, you are faced with, eh, for instance, at the court, conflict of laws,
Yes.
conflict of cultures, conflict of work ethics, different languages, personalities, and so forth. But you have to catch up real quick. I mean, for us, even for us judges, for me, for instance, when I went to The Hague, I came from a national jurisdiction where I had a house, an institutional house, or the Commonwealth gave me money to rent out the best house in the country, in the city, a driver, a car, 24-hour security, an armed orderly, and everything. I arrived in The Hague. The driver took me to a hotel and he said, "Okay, Judge, I'll see you." So I said, "Oh, what time?" He says, "What time? What do you mean?" I said, "What time are you picking me up?" He says, "Oh, no, this is this is it." I said, "Oh my God, where is the ICC?" Fortunately, my hotel was not far from the court. So he said,
Yes.
"Come." He pointed out the building. So, and then, of course, you get into the court, you find Italians, you find French speakers, and so forth and so on. And, you have even the culture, the ways of work. You've got to sit back, listen, and try to acclimatize. And of course, the pace is so fast, and the competition, even at that level, is very, very high. I'm not competing with other judges overtly, but we are still in competition. I come from a Commonwealth background. The other judge is coming from a civil, and you are fighting every day over concepts. But at national level, the pace is slower. People have time to train others and to be trained, and to mentor others and to be mentored, although this does not mean that there's no professionalism. So those are the differences. It's and now when you have both sides of the coin, like I did, it's just phenomenal. You just feel whole, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, I know that trying to apply to many of these international organizations, most of the time the advantage would be over and above maybe your English, you should have another language. How,
Yes.
why is that important for us here to make sure that we obtain at least another language?
Especially French,
French,
because
yes.
French has now become a language of the world.
Mm.
It is, I mean, any international regional organization, for instance, SADC,
Yes.
French is one of the working languages. At the ICC, French, and what have the working languages, the spoken languages, including Kiswahili. But on a serious note, I just wish Botswana could venture into French, because with French you can't go wrong. Wherever you are, French is spoken. Wherever you go to, French is a requirement. At least
Yes.
if people, even if you are not A level, if people were able to make themselves communicate in French. For instance, at the ICC, it is a requirement, but if you are qualified to get the job, you will get the job. But the court quickly offers training in French and Spanish. So, yeah, they are. I'm sure Botswana can do it through. I don't know whether the Alliance Française is doing it. I know that there are some ladies who are going to start a course here. I don't know whether they have started yet. So, but it is important for those who are able to.
Definitely. I've realized that as well.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. But what would you say have been your strongest influence in the legal fraternity?
I think the fact of achieving what I did,
Yes.
starting where everybody is right now and in the past, and ultimately sitting as a judge in the highest permanent criminal court in the world, should, and I believe has been a strong influence in the legal fraternity.
Yes.
The fact that I left a secure job and set up this office of the Law Society has not been forgotten by my peers. I mean, I was even acknowledged at the opening of the legal year. So I am hoping, and you know what, the fact that even as I'm here, I'm still being invited to sit on, to speak at this, to speak at that. I am the president of the Botswana chapter of the International Association of Women Judges. Just shows maybe the love, the belief in me, and the fact that perhaps I am some role model of some kind. And for me, that's all I need. I'm not a difficult person. Just the fact that when I am introduced, this child says, "Oh my God, I am not going to wash my hands for the next week," whether it's a lawyer or not.
Yeah.
You just feel, I'm not trying to feel important, but you just feel that perhaps you had made a mark, a positive mark. I'm still to address the Law Society members, just for us to to touch base and to see, to do exactly what we are doing. What can we do? What do you suggest we do?
Yes. I believe Botswana are so proud of you. I remember when I went for my internship at Rantau Kiwarama in my fourth year. Rantau kept telling me there's a woman at the ICC. So I knew the name even before I met Hague at the time. He kept telling people, inspiring us that you know what, you can be wherever you want.
That's so sweet. And he's so magnificent. That's so magnificent. He's a lovely person, a brilliant lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are back in the country. What are you busy with? What does your normal day look like?
Believe me, this normal day is not normal. I'm still so busy. I'm still so busy. Like I said, I was appointed the president of the Competition and Consumer Tribunal. It's a new tribunal, a very important entity that touches on human rights or people's rights. We are setting it up, and it has kept me very busy. And because as an arbitrator, I do get cases here and there, although not really much, because again, you don't want to stress yourself too much. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Gaborone. This is a charity entity, and we are very, very busy with our charity work. I still do work with a lot of international NGOs like the International Commission of Jurists. I'm a commissioner, the International Commission of Missing Persons. So, and the Commission of Missing Persons is also relatively new, and it's a very difficult area, and although very, very interesting.
Yes.
And of course, I'm involved in my grandchildren's upbringing, which is such a joy. So my days, I mean, during this lockdown period, you know,
Yeah.
people are excited. People are saying, "Oh no," and the norm as we knew it yesterday has probably changed for good.
Yes.
Meetings are now going to be held like we are doing, and if you haven't done it, you don't realize just how exhausting it is.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's in our minds because we are still adjusting. I don't know. But the past 2 weeks have been so rough for me. I've had all sorts of board meetings going on for days, training and stuff like that. But again, you are just grateful that you are still able to do such things. You are still able to contribute to your society and other societies.
Yes.
Um, eh,
Okay. Thank you
so
so much for that. I know you've given advices throughout this interview, but what is the last word that we can give now to the law students? What can you tell them, especially during this period?
one thing I can say to them, whether it's during this period or on any other period, they
Yes.
should remember that law is a noble profession. They are very privileged to be lawyers. I know that they work very, very hard. I went through it. They should always remember that people's lives are in their hands, and they really have to rise to the occasion.
Yes.
And they should remember that they are learned, as we know, and that alone comes with huge responsibilities. I would be very, very disappointed to hear that our lawyers are not up to scratch. I haven't heard anything to that extent, but I give them all the encouragement, and I know they can make it. I know that I've been told that the present crop of students are very, very bright, but they shouldn't use their intelligence and misplace it, and the whole world is marching forward. I mean, right now, Botswana might have a problem with the virus. We might not be having the expertise that we are used to coming in from other countries. And it's about time we took our destiny into our own hands. I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with lawyers from South Africa or elsewhere coming into Botswana to practice, but first and foremost, it should be us.
Yes.
Chambers needs us. Private practice needs us. Parastatals needs us. Daughters and sons of the soil. But at the same time, encouraging them that where there are opportunities in the international arena, they should take them.
Yes.
They should take them.
Tomorrow is Mother's Day. What does your ideal Mother's Day look like?
if only they cannot forget.
They want.
I am beginning to doubt if they will remember. All I need is just a hug from my daughter and my son and my grandchildren.
Yes.
Just a hug.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. We appreciate, we are so privileged. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for reaching out. This is what I want to do. And I'm available to talk to your friends here and there when I have the time. Thank you so much. You're welcome, my dear. Thank you very much. Bye. Thanks. Bye. I'm exiting. I'm exiting.